The National Hurricane Center first began tracking a vigorous tropical wave off the west coast of Africa on July 23. The wave gradually organized and became better defined, developing a broad area of low pressure. Though the circulation was broad and disorganized, convection continued to increase over the system, and the system obtained gale-force winds on July 28. Although the system still lacked a well-defined center, its tropical storm force winds and imminent threat of tropical cyclone genesis to land areas prompted its designation as potential Tropical Cyclone 9 at 1500 Coordinated Universal Time on July 28. The system moved just south of Dominica on July 29, and at 3 o'clock Coordinated Universal Time on the following day, the system organized sufficiently to become a tropical cyclone. Due to its precursor disturbance already having gale-force winds, it was immediately declared a tropical storm and given the name Isaias. When Tropical Storm Isaias formed, it became the earliest ninth-named storm on record, breaking the record of Hurricane Irene in 2005 by 8 days. Isaias continued strengthening after reaching tropical storm status, with 1-minute sustained winds reaching 60 miles per hour (95 kilometers per hour) on July 30 as it made landfall on the southern coastline of the Dominican Republic. Contrary to predictions by meteorologists, the mountainous terrain of Hispaniola did not weaken the storm, as the system had a broad circulation and developed a new low-pressure center to the north of the island, thus maintaining its intensity. Early the next day, hurricane hunters unexpectedly found that Isaias strengthened, reaching its initial peak intensity as a Category 1 hurricane with winds of 80 miles per hour (130 kilometers per hour) and a pressure of 990 millibars (29.23 nhg). Moderate to strong southwesterly wind shear and dry air entrainment began affecting the storm a few hours later, resulting in the low-level center being exposed near the western edge of the convection. After a brief weakening trend, Isaias began to intensify again, with deep convection firing over the exposed center and an eye feature forming on Bahamian radar. Later that evening, data from another Hurricane Hunter reconnaissance aircraft confirmed a closed eye wall and a lower minimal central pressure of 987 millibars. The storm strengthened afterwards to obtain its second peak intensity with winds of 85 miles per hour (137 kilometers per hour) despite a somewhat ragged appearance. At 1500 Coordinated Universal Time on August 1, Isaias made landfall on northern Andros Island, Bahamas at a slightly weaker 80 miles per hour (130 kilometers per hour). Land interaction along with the continued effects of wind shear and dry air continued to weaken the system, and it dropped below hurricane strength at 2100 Coordinated Universal Time as its center became completely devoid of convection, although a large burst of convection formed over the center shortly after it moved back over water. As of 2 p.m. Eastern Daylight Saving Time, 1600 Coordinated Universal Time, August 1, Hurricane Isaias is located within 20 nautical miles of 24.3 degrees north 77.5 degrees west 24.3. -77.5, Isaias, about 20 miles, 30 kilometers, east of Andros, Bahamas, and about 50 miles, 85 kilometers per hour, south of Nassau, Bahamas. Maximum sustained winds are 65 knots, 75 miles per hour, 120 kilometers per hour, with gusts up to 75 knots, 85 miles per hour, 140 kilometers per hour. The minimum barometric pressure is 990 millibars (29.23 nhg), and the system is moving northwest at 10 knots (12 miles per hour), 19 kilometers per hour. For the latest official information, see the NHC's latest public advisory on Hurricane Isaias, the NHC's latest forecast advisory on Hurricane Isaias, the NHC's latest forecast discussion on Hurricane Isaias. Numerous tropical storm, hurricane, and storm surge watches and warnings were issued for areas in the path of Isaias. The first tropical storm watches and warnings were posted for Puerto Rico, the Virgin Islands, the Leeward Islands, the Dominican Republic, and Haiti when the system was designated potential Tropical Cyclone 9. With the system approaching and strengthening, hurricane warnings were posted for the northwestern Bahamas at 0000 Coordinated Universal Time on July 31. The sudden upgrade to hurricane status caused all of the warnings in the Bahamas to change to under hurricane warnings at 3:40 Coordinated Universal Time. People living on Abaco and Grand Bahama Islands were evacuated before the storm. Many of the citizens were still living in temporary structures due to damage caused by Hurricane Dorian a year ago in 2019. Many of the structures were weak and could be easily destroyed by tropical storm and hurricane-force winds. The Meteorology Department of the Bahamas advised citizens to hunker down. The government of the Bahamas lifted the COVID-19 lockdown instituted for controlling the virus before the storm so people could freely travel to safer places. Shelters were opened on larger islands in the island chain, with people on smaller, less populated, islands needing to travel to reach a shelter. Bahamas Power and Light shut off electricity to areas at high risk of flooding on New Providence, the most populous island in the Bahamas, until it was safe to re-energize. Tropical storm watches were first initiated in southeast Florida at 2100 Coordinated Universal Time on July 30, with more watches and warnings going up as the storm got closer. In anticipation of the storm, the state of Florida closed COVID-19 testing sites on July 30 due to potential impacts from Isaias. The next day, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis declared a state of emergency for the eastern coast of Florida ahead of Isaias. On July 31, North Carolina Governor Roy Cooper declared a state of emergency ahead of the storm. A mandatory evacuation of Ocracoke Island, North Carolina, was issued that same day. Most of the Caribbean islands were suffering from moderate to severe drought conditions from an unusually dry spring and early summer. The drought was particularly severe in Puerto Rico and the Dominican Republic, with the governor of Puerto Rico declaring a state of emergency in late June and ordering rationing of water, subjecting residents in affected areas to 24-hour water shutoffs every other day. Heavy rain from Isaias and its precursor disturbance alleviated drought in many areas of the Caribbean. The precursor to Isaias brought squally conditions to the Windward Islands. Rainfall peaked at 3.13 inches (8.0 centimeters) in the town of Salisbury, on the island of Dominica. In Puerto Rico, about 448,000 customers and 23 hospitals lost power and about 150,000 customers lost water service due to electric blackouts and blocked intakes. The entire town of Yauco had no power, and all roads leading to the town were either flooded or blocked by fallen trees. Many surrounding towns in eastern Puerto Rico also had no drinking water nor electricity from a lack of access to the areas of damage. 3 gates on the Carrizo Reservoir Dam in Trujillo Alto, Puerto Rico, were opened because of runoff from Isaias. A woman was dragged by an river in Rincon, Puerto Rico while she was crossing a bridge due to heavy rain. She was found dead 2 days later. Due to the extensive damage, President Donald Trump approved an emergency declaration request from Puerto Rico's Governor Wanda Vázquez Garcet. 1 person was killed in El Sabo province, in the Dominican Republic, when a power line fell on his horse a few feet away from him, killing him and the animal. A 5-year-old boy was also killed when a tree fell and crushed his home in Altamira in Puerto Plata province. Widespread flooding was reported in Hato Mayor del Rey, a town of 70,000 inhabitants. In the Bahamas, Isaias damaged roofs and toppled trees as it battered the Bahamas from July 31 to August 1, hitting some areas still recovering from the devastation of Hurricane Dorian a year before. There were many reports on social media of tropical storm force winds and heavy rain from the storm.